3D printing. So this video is dedicated to the X1E Bambu 3D printer, and in this video we will go through the essential safety checks and the procedure of working with the printer with the help of the Bambu Studio software, and how to use the Bambu Studio with the SD card. So, for your safety checks. So 3D printer is, 3D printing is at this point is quite an established technology. So, I'll start with the most obvious things. So we have a printing nozzle from which the filament from the AMS, or which stands for Automatic Material System, is being supplied to the nozzle of the printer, and that nozzle does get quite hot, so it can reach more than 150 degrees. You usually set those settings inside the software. Your printing bed as well, it does get quite hot, so you need to be aware of that. And when the printer is operational, do not stick your hands or other limbs inside, as they might get crushed. Ensure that the printer door is fully closed when you start the printing. So again, for this specific type of equipment, we do have a safe operating procedure, and we'll just briefly go through it. You usually can find this document underneath the printer or somewhere in vicinity of either of the two printers that we have. So, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. So this equipment requires training, so you need to go through the training. If you have any implantable bioelectronics, such as, for example, pacemaker, you need to speak to the lab manager just to ensure that the magnets that are present in the printing bed, they do not interfere with the implantable electronics that you have. So do not wear loose clothing, jewelry, tie long hair when you work with the 3D printer. When you start the printing job, make sure, again, as I mentioned, that you close the door. And the reason for that is essentially the next point, is that the filaments, they do produce fumes, and those fumes are, they might be, I would say, they're of a varying degree of hazardness. So essentially in this lab, we do restrict the number of materials that you can use. So you can use only those materials that are used with the AMS, and those mainly are going to be PLA, TPU, and PVA. Others, other materials, they need a separate risk assessment. What happens with this 3D printer specifically is that it has a HEPA filter, and without going too much into nitty-gritty details of that, it filters out all the hazardous fumes. And when you properly close the door, you ensure that whatever the fumes are present inside the 3D printer, they remain inside, and then they're safely filtered. If the filter is malfunctioning or if the filter is exhausted, then do not use the 3D printer, and you will get the notification on the main screen anyway. It also helps, and this is, for example, one of the things that I constantly do is when I'm 3D printing, there is a window nearby. I usually open it just to make sure that there is a fresh air and the airflow, and there is additional airflow present. So just check, again, before printing, just check for the obvious damages to the cable, to the printer itself. When you print, I would like to stress there are two things. So first of all, try to think about, try to ensure that your design is efficient, that it does not use more material than it should. I mean, it's just a good engineering practice, but it is also taking care of the responsible design and innovation. So I strongly recommend to go over your design and try to, for instance, skeletonize, like if you're working on some sort of part that is going to be used as mechanical assembly, then think whether it can be hollowed out, whether it can be skeletonized, or again, like there are many methods that you can apply, but it's just good school of engineering. Anyway, the other thing is the temperature. Again, from the perspective of efficiency and energy usage, try to minimize the temperature of the 3D printing to the one that is as low as possible for the given material. So do not run the do not run the 3D printer nozzle hotter than you should. All right. So we've run through the materials. We know that we should use the AMS. So PLA, TPU, and PVA are the one that we use without any additional risk assessments. But any others, please get in touch with the Design Suite Manager and conduct the necessary risk assessment. So to print with this printer, it can be accessed via either network, but that is something that essentially, if you set up your PC to work via network, everything is pretty much the same as I'm going to be showing you right now. But for the educational purposes and the purposes of showing you essentially the most robust and the most basic way of communicating and operating the 3D printer, I'm going to be using SD card. So the SD card is inserted here, so to the right of the display, like so. So you need to insert it and then push it until it clicks. And it just clicked. And then the same, and when you want to remove it, What you need to do, you need to press it, it's gonna click, and then it's gonna come out quite easily. Again, this is quite simple process. So here we have a dedicated laptop for working with the 3D printer, laser cutter, and other pieces of software and hardware. And this laptop, it is equipped, it has SD card reader. It is located at the right hand side of the laptop, so the method of, or rather the procedure of inserting and getting the SD card is exactly the same as with the 3D printer. So you take this, so the contact pads down, you insert it until you hear a click, and that's it. You probably might have heard the sound from laptop, and this is exactly what we want to hear. It means that the SD card was recognized, and now we can work with the software. To work with the Bambu 3D printer, you can use different pieces of software. It all boils down to, at the end of the day, whether you can produce the G code that all 3D printers understand. And in our case, we have the Bambu Studio, which is the most, I would say, straightforward way of communicating with the Bambu printer. So I'm not going to be going over the various features of interface. There are a lot of things you can do here. I would like just to nail down one thing, and one thing only, is the pipeline of how you get your STL in and how you can print it. So in my case, I already have a file prepared. It is an .stl file, and I can simply drag and drop it, and it will appear in the appear on the screen. So it will be on the screen and on the virtual printing bed. In this case, this is just a simple test. It is a similar to what was tested with the laser cutter. So what we would like to make sure that we match is that we match the Bambu, or rather the 3D printer, to the one that we have, and we have X1E. We match the plate, we match the diameter of the printing nozzle, and we match the material that we're going to be using. And please note that here we essentially we are looking for the material from the existing library. Later, when we insert the SD card inside the 3D printer, we will be selecting the exact material that is present in the IMS. I'll show you exactly what I mean in a brief moment. Right. So again, quality, strength, support. There are many parameters, but this is something that you can play a lot with it. But for the time being, it is just like default settings, so nothing too complicated. You just drop some sort of a file, you just drop some sort of a model, and you want to print it. I mean, and that's fine. So what you need to do, you inserted your model. Now you press slice plate. Again, there are many many ways you can play with the slicing, how it's done, or whether you're going to be hollowing out certain points, like what is the density, infill, all of this stuff, but this is a result for later. Now, after we sliced our plate, we essentially generated the path how the 3D printing nozzle is going to be moving. And this is the exact sort of information that is nested inside the G code. Right, and to get this information onto our SD card, what we need to do is to navigate to the upper right corner and select export plate sliced file or export all sliced file. It doesn't really matter in this case, but I do select export plate sliced file. I press the button, and then I need to navigate and find my my SD card. So it is already highlighted for us. It is SDHC, and in the main folder, so immediately as you open it, there are some G-code stuff here, and I will name this as the previous test that I was conducting. We'll save it under the same name, save. Let's go, it already exists, doing yes. So what we just did, we saved this model onto our SD card, and now we can work with the printer. So again, I need to get the SD card out of the laptop. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna press onto the SD card. It comes out nicely. I take the SD card out of the adapter. I insert the SD card inside the 3D printer. I did here a click. Just make sure that you put this SD card somewhere safe. I do believe that you can actually just put it back inside the laptop. When you got your SD card inserted, you will be presented with the main screen. You just simply press print files. You can go over all the 3D print models that you have on the SD cards, and you just need to find the exact one that you uploaded. In this case, it is this one. That's it, we just selected it. Now we press, everything matches, we press next, and this is the point where we select the material. So at the moment we have two PLA materials loaded. One is gray and the other one is orange. So this is why we are prompted with what material to actually use. I will, for the sake of this tutorial, I will use orange one, and I'll press print. And now the printing has started. We can see that the printing bed is being lowered. The nozzle started moving. And here we go. So what is happening is that you can check the status of the printer here, what actually is being, what sort of operation is being conducted at the moment. But at this point of time, you essentially can leave the printer to its own devices and come back when the job is finished to see the results. Alright, so the 3D printing process is done, and all that is left is to just take the 3D print out of the 3D printer and be done with it. However, a couple of notes. So the first one is that some of your 3D printing models might have sharp edges. So I do recommend, and I stress that for those cases, please use the gloves. Use gloves. Secondly, the printing plate is metallic, and the printing bed, which it adheres to, is magnetic. You need to keep that in mind. From the perspective is that it does take a little bit of a force to lift it off, not that much, but it does. But there is that bit, and when we're going to be inserting it back, there are going to be a couple of again tips and tricks on that front. And finally, when the 3D print is ready, I do recommend to wait for about 10 to 15 minutes to let the 3D printer to cool. This will help to prevent any burns, as well as it will let you peel off the 3D print much more easy. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna put on the gloves, I'm gonna open the 3D printer door, I'll lift the printing plate slightly and take it out, and then close the door. Right, it does look quite nice. Everything seems to be printed quite well, perfection. So we can start to peel it off. Usually I do start with this test line, and I just peel it off starting from this side. As you can see, it does peel off very easily, even though I'm wearing gloves. I just slide underneath it, and then and there you go. There it is. It's done. And what I do with this next is here to the left of the 3D printers, we have a recycling box with the specifically dedicated to PLA. Though near it you can find another recycling box, as per local rules, that is dedicated to all the 3D printing material that is not PLA, essentially. So if you, for example, unsure what material was used, like for instance somebody left something, or you found some residue inside of the printer, just throw it, just chuck it into the other bin. But the big one, where it says PLA, we chuck all the support and all those test lines there. Right, so what is left is to peel off our 3D print, and I can already, I can hear that it starts to peel off, even though I just very slightly bent, twisted the printing plate. So what you want to do is to just wiggle it a little bit, just like try to bend it just tiny bit. Like you don't need to use a lot of force here, and you will start hear this specific cracking sound. I'm not sure whether the mic can pick it up, but you will be able to hear it and recognize it quite quickly when you will start doing 3D printing more. So after that, after you play it a little bit, just try to see whether it can be twisted, or if you can lift it off a little bit. I can see that the 3D printing is the 3D print is coming off already. It's peeling off, and I just simply use one of my fingers to squeeze under, and that's it. So I'm putting the printing bed here. Amazing. It's very nicely done, very nicely printed. Perfection. We'll put it aside, and now we'll put the printing plate back under its place. So what I tend to do in such cases, I tend to angle it and make sure that the edges line up with the edges of the print bed, with the printing bed. So this way, I'm gonna show you. I put it inside, then I move it until the end, until it locks essentially, and cannot no longer move, and I start to slowly release it, and then I just let it go. And because, as I mentioned before, the printing plate is metallic and the printing bed is magnetic, magnetic force is essentially does all the job for us. So just check, just do a final check, final sweep, whether there are any residue or anything like that, whether there is some filament. Like for example, I've noticed that there is some sort of a filament here. Yeah, just take it out and again chuck it into the recycling bin. And this is essentially the end of the procedure of 3D printing.